Okay, right now I'd like to introduce you to my brother Blake, who manages the cattle operation here at Seven Sons. Blake, we've been talking about how important it is that we have healthy soils so that we can have healthy plants and animals and healthy food. Obviously, your management decisions here with the cattle have a big effect on that. Uh, First of all, tell us a little bit about what's going on here, some of the basics of the operation.
Yeah, well, thank you for tuning in. What you are looking at right here is 120 head of cattle. These cattle have been grazing on our farm for about a year now, and their diet consists of 100% grass that is grown on our farm. We have about 550 acres that the cattle have access to roam through the growing season.
All right, so no grain,
Nope.
just forage, and it's morning here. You're out here doing chores. What are you about to do here?
What we're going to do is we're going to set up some wire, temporary wire that we put out every day that allows us to rotate the cattle and give them fresh pasture every single day.
Okay, all right, you want to show us how you do that?
Absolutely.
All right, so Blake put up a new paddock on the far side here where you see the longer grass, and he's winding up the previous day's line of fence. And the cattle know exactly what to do. Cattle are creatures of habit, and they are excited and anxious to get to their fresh new paddock. Okay, so Blake, you just took a couple minutes to show us the daily pasture move. Explain to us why that process is so important that you're moving the cattle each and every day to fresh pasture.
Yes, what we want is we always want green grass growing in our pasture. So as the cattle are grazing, they're biting off about half the grass that's there, and then as that grass has been eaten, some of the roots are dying off. And as they're dying off, they're actually feeding the microbes in the soil.
So that's interesting. So the die off of the roots as the cattle graze feeds that soil. And then since you're moving the cattle away, it gives the plant a chance to regrow, reestablish those roots. And it's a constant process throughout the grazing season. And that's just pumping carbon from the atmosphere right back into the soil, right where it belongs.
Building organic matter.
Now let's talk drugs and antibiotics. I mean, 80% of the antibiotics that are used in the U.S. go into the food system via fed to animals or given to animals. Why is it we don't need that here?
Well, the biggest reason is that the cattle are allowed to be in their natural environment, out in the clean pastures, fresh air. Another thing is like we talked earlier, is about the polyculture of forages, the diverse mixes we have that the cattle are grazing. And each one of those different plants help with the nutrition of the animal and keeping it healthy.
Right. So each plant.
Think of it as making tea. There's so many different teas that you can brew.
Right.
That help
So
with
this is like one big herbal remedy. So that's why we want the polyculture here, because each plant has
in the health.
Yeah, each plant has different compounds that assist in the animal's health. All right, let's talk about commercial fertilizers. Every year, industrial agriculture relies upon synthetic fertilizers every year to grow a crop, and we know that from even experience years ago when we produced row crops that synthetic fertilizers kill the life in the soil. It produces a crop each year, but each year the soil is depleted of its nutrients. Tell us why we don't need fertilizers here and inputs in a situation like this.
Sure. Well, one reason is we talked about the diverse mixes of grasses that we have and forbs and legumes that we have in our pasture fields. And for example, like clover, the air is 78% nitrogen, and the clover, which is legume, and alfalfa, is capturing that and putting that in the soil and making it available for other plants.
So that plant you hold in your hand is capturing nitrogen from the air. You said the air is 78% nitrogen.
Yep.
And so we can just sequester that right from the air that we breathe and put it back in the soil. Okay. Okay, Blake. So someone might say all this sounds good in theory, but are there ways that we can actually test to see that that we're building organic matter in the soil and thus releasing more minerals to the plants?
Yeah, there are, and we like to use this device called a refractometer. So what you do is you just grab some vegetation and you will just squeeze the sap out of it onto this device, and when you look through it, it will show you the level of bricks, which is basically sugar, which is a good indicator of the minerals that are available in the plant.
Okay, and what's cool is we've actually done this. We've actually taken a refractometer to the grocery store.
Yep.
Now, what's interesting is that buying certified organic doesn't always guarantee that it's going to have a higher mineral level when testing it with this refractometer, right?
No, it doesn't. No.
Now, in one of the problems with organic agriculture is that it seeks to, in many cases, seeks to mimic an industrial system.
Yep.
Where what we're talking about right here, this is mimicking nature's system. For example, you can go to the store and buy certified organic beef. And most of the time, that's all going to be fed grain, which cattle are not designed to eat grain. So that's just an example of an organic product that mimicked the industrial system. We've been raising grass-fed beef for how long?
About 20 years now.
And now, suddenly, again, national brands you see all over the country and at grocery store shelves, grass-fed beef being sold. How is all that product appearing on the shelves so quickly?
Well, 80% of that product that is available on the shelf is imported.
And so, is it labeled as product of the USA, or is it labeled as imported?
No, it's labeled as product of the USA, and the way the labeling regulations are, they're allowed to label it product of the USA.
So that's 80% of the grass-fed beef. What about the other 20%?
The other 20% is of grass-fed beef sold in the U.S. is produced domestically.
Okay.
But of that 20%, 10% is just raised in a feedlot. So basically they're taking a confinement feeding operation, taking away most of the grain and just taking some hay to them, substituting the rest of the diet with some hay.
So still fed with some grain byproducts.
Yep.
In a feedlot. So you don't see any of the benefits that you see out here.
Nope.
And
that product would still be labeled as 100% grass-fed.
So that makes it really tricky trying to find true grass-finished beef that offers the benefits that we just talked about. So what's the best way to figure that out, to interpret those labels?
Yep. Well, I would think you'd want to get to know the farm.
Right. Get to know the farm, where it's
the people that are producing the product,
and visit the farm. Okay. Yep. Excellent. All right. Well, thanks for your time. All right, well, thanks for joining myself and my brother Blake on the tour of our grass-fed beef operation. You know, if there's one concept that I hope you understood and grasped, is that the food system and how we produce food is all so interconnected, and it's all related to your health. And please share your comments with us. We'd love to hear back from you. This is interactive. We want this to be an interactive experience. Hang tight. We're going to be heading over to a different part of the farm where we're going to show you another production enterprise. So look forward to that.